because you were
Somebody
telling me
said hello.
that funny story, and I was like,
I got Boyd is used to me telling these elaborate stories, and he'll go, and he's like, we got like 15 seconds, and I'm still talking. He's like,
oh yeah,
5,
he
4,
purposely
I'm
was
still
like
talking.
being the bad pupil today or something.
Oh,
Not,
hey, but did you want us to tell him what I did yesterday? Laureen doesn't know about this, I don't think, unless she saw it
I
in
know.
our
I'm going.
chat.
I'm afraid. I don't know what I'm agreeing to.
I am such a professional, you guys. I tell you, I'm good. And it's a good thing I'm not old and it wasn't a fly, because I'd be dead right now because I swallowed a
Oh,
bug in the middle of the webinar
yeah, I did
last
see
night.
that.
an
I don't even
unnamed,
know how to
an
comment.
unnamed bug, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you just went on without saying anything.
Nope.
Wow,
I
you
just
are.
took a
I was
drink.
listening and I didn't hear anything, but I must have had my attention
But
trapped.
see, I coughed in the beginning when we get started, so we had to
Right.
restart. And so maybe if I made a face, they probably just thought that, but that thing hit me in the mouth and I was like, oh, a gnat. And then it hit me again, and that time it's like, whoop, right down it went. And so I was like, okay. You know, isn't it funny that it feels like a boulder, something really tiny that's not supposed to be there? It's like, so if it'd been a fly, or if I'd been an old lady, you know that rhyme, right?
Oh,
Yep.
is there what's
Was
the
an old lady who
ICD-10 code
swallowed a
for biting
fly?
an old lady? Is there an ICD-10 code for that?
Yes,
I'm
there is.
sure.
I'm sure there is. Foreign body, swallowing a foreign body, although that would be a biological age. I still would be foreign.
And what qualifies as old? Is it 65 or older, or what is
Well, that depends if you're pregnant or not, because like when you're pregnant, it's like
a pregnant?
26 or 28. Yeah, that's
Is
really
that a
embarrassing.
modifier for a pregnant old lady?
No, but no, it's not a modifier. It's called, what is it? Does Lauren remember? It's it's really, really horrible what they call it. It's called it's elderly, I think, is the term they use.
Yeah.
Pregnant.
Oh, if someone knows in the chat, let us
Yep,
know.
someone better look it up for us.
Yeah.
And I think it's 26 or 28. You're considered high risk because you're elderly.
All right. So how many are people loading up here? Are people just having too much
Yeah,
fun?
we got some people in
summer.
in YouTube.
There we go. Yep, we got one on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
Why
26
Davis?
watching. Okay, so they're watching. They're just being quiet. So say hello to us in the chat, guys. Let us know what's on your mind. We did have a thought of what we could talk about, a day in the life of a medical coder.
Mm-hmm.
So Alicia picked this. I'm assuming she's kind of got something in mind that she wanted to share. So
I thought a gnat went by. Sorry.
Oh.
Having PTSD. You can code that. So the what actually happened was a question had come in when we were doing our public Q&A webinar this month, and Jesus asked about it because he was filling in for Lori and Sylvia, and he said, oh, it sounds like something maybe we should do in a webinar instead. And it was a great question about, you know, how you deal with emotional charge. The person had to deal with social work and things, and if you've ever done risk adjustment, you're looking at a year's worth of documentation, and we're, you know, collecting chronic illnesses for CMS. And so sometimes you've got really healthy 65-year-olds for CMS, and other times you've got 65-year-olds or other ages, but Medicare patients, and they're really, really ill, and you know that the outcome is not good. And you know that can wear on you because you're looking at all of this documentation, and so you feel like you're invested in their life. So then we thought, well, what would be a good title? A day in the life of a medical coder. And then second, we'll go into some of the emotional stuff. I think for this, though, we really have to talk about what type of medical coding you're doing, because if you work in-house in a facility, if you work remote, it's going to be completely different, right? But for the most part, we all are doing the same thing. And I think we keep business hours no matter where you work. And that is something that if you talk to anybody, they'll tell you that, you know, there's it's kind of like it's regimented. Even if you work from home, you have a lot of freedom to work at home, but you have to keep your hours. You have to keep business hours. And when you start out, it can be intimidating trying to figure out, well, how long is it going to take me to do this? Or when can I take lunch or stuff? Whereas you work in a facility, your day is set up on a protocol. You all don't leave for lunch at the same time, usually, if you're working in an office and things. But I think maybe comparing what I did and what Laureen did, because she worked for, was it 3M? Who was it that you worked for?
Well, they were originally called CodeWrite, and then 3M
CodeWrite.
bought them. But that, I wouldn't say, is a typical medical coding job. We were called coding analysts, and we would interpret, they called it an engine. It was basically computerized assisted coding, or CAC. And radiology reports would come in, and they would have this engine go over it, and that engine was taught to look for key phrases and say, oh, single view chest x-ray, well, that's 71010, and cough, and it, give the code. And then human coders would review what the computer suggested and make changes or accept it. And we, as analysts, would analyze the changes they made to see how we could make the engine do better. And we were constantly improving it. And then, of course, you'd get code changes. And it was a really, really fun job, because I'm like a techie, or I used to be. Now I feel too old. Now my 14-year-old knows more than me. But back then, I loved doing that kind of stuff, but it wasn't very typical. But there are jobs like that out there. I would say, a typical medical coder is going to be kind of doing production coding. They're going to have a quota normally, a stack of charts to get through, and depending on the specialty, if it's like VIR, something very complicated, you're probably going to have less of a quota, but they're also high dollar amount cases, so they're kind of okay with that taking longer and you getting it right. But maybe a radiology coder or general practitioner, your volume expectations might be higher.
Yeah, and that is usually, and these are ballpark averages, because quite honestly, with technology the way it is, sometimes you can get through your charts faster than you could 10 years ago or even 20 years ago. Not that I'm dating myself, but even though you had encoders, they're even better now than they used to be, and I still refer to my manuals all the time. But like production for an office, a doctor's office, even a specialty office like a cardiology and stuff, you're seeing repetition a lot. So it could be 35 to 50 charts an hour, depending, and they clock you on that. And then other types of jobs, they pay per chart. Now, if you work in a doctor's office or a facility or stuff, they probably don't pay per chart, unless it's high, a specialty thing like what Laureen was doing as an analyst. That would be different, because again, they're different scenarios. Some research would have to take would take longer. I know she would tell stories about how a specific code, and then it's like, oh man, that's just not going to really work, but what else is there out, and things like that take more time. For risk adjustment, it would be different, and of course that's more of my background, or even home health, and they still could do it by the chart, but it's 5 charts an hour, not 30 or 40 or 50, because you're looking at a year's worth of documentation. And sometimes you pulled 1,000 pages, or a chart that was 1,000 pages, or it could be 30 pages. And sometimes the 30 pagers were harder because they were long documentation, whereas 1,000 pages would probably be several inpatient stays. Half of that's fodder. You can't, labs, how many pages print off for, a panel, and, that's 10 pages and all these EKG strips and stuff. You don't get to code off that. So, you can flip through that stuff really, really fast. But again, things like that, sometimes they still do pay per chart, and sometimes but still it's considered production. But I think when you walk in the door for wherever your office is going to be, if we give you any advice, always show up early. unless you're doing it from home. But if you have to log in, if you're doing remote, you still have meetings. And I know that one of the hospitals that I used to work for a long time ago, I had checked back with them and they all worked remote. Now the coders do, and she said she has them check in. They have a meeting once a week. They come in and have a meeting, and then they go back and they do all their production work from home. And I think you find that more and more. This was a smaller hospital, but always get there early, have everything ready for what you're going to do, and there's really not much to it other
Develop a
than that.
cheat sheet that, if you
Oh,
can, have a cheat sheet of the common codes that you're dealing with for your specialty, that helped me. I'll be honest, I've never really been a production coder. I went from having a billing company where we did a little bit of coding, but I never did it myself. So when I was working for CodeWright and I wanted a little side money, I did, because it became more proficient in radiology, because that was the main specialty that they did. I did a little radiology coding for, I think it was called the Coding Network, and I had to take a test, but I didn't last very long because, what do they say? Those that can do, those that can't teach. I could do it, but I was slow. I was so used to grading other people's work that when I added up, and it was paid by the chart. When I added up my hourly rate, it was so low, it was really sad. But over time, I got quicker because it was very similar cases I started to see, and you started to pick up on how their documentation was laid out, and you could start zeroing in. So you do get quicker. At first, it's very discouraging though.
right.
So I recommend to people, if they can get their first job where they're paid by the chart, for me, that took the pressure off of feeling like, okay, they're paying me 20 bucks an hour, 25 an hour. I need to get X amount of done. It was like, and it was just very overwhelming. But when I got paid by the chart and they had no idea how long it took me,
Right.
and I just had to get the quality work in, then I could start to get up speed. And then I said, okay, now my hourly rate is now 10 an hour. Okay, now it's 15. And,
Yeah.
so that was kind of, nice to do that. But it depends on the kind of job you get. If you're showing up for a face-to-face job, not remote, chances are you're going to be paid, for the hours that you're there, or a salary, and they will have a quota. They'll go easier on you at first, and the bigger the outfit, the more supervision you might have. They might do like 50% audit of your work, and then they'll maybe go down to 25%, or they'll have some sort of procedure before they kind of send you off into the wild, so to speak, and then they'll just spot check.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing because you can get education as well from, hopefully whoever's auditing you will act kind of as a mentor as well.
Constructive criticism is something that you have to become very used to. You'll be audited all the time. I mean, I still, if I don't do production work, but if I were, I would expect to get audited. And, and I can think that I'm a smarty pants and an expert in ICD-10 and blah, 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 whatever you want to say. But the fact is you never are. And that's kind of a nice thing about it though. As a coder, it's never boring. Now, I do know that I would think, now this is my personal opinion, and I don't know if it's true. Some of you guys that are do code for doctors' offices and stuff like that, maybe a pediatric office or even like cardiology and things. To me, I always thought that would be a little dull because you do, especially if your specialty, you're seeing the same things over and over again, which is great because you're going to get really good. I took a test one time, and one of the proctors was a CCC, and she didn't have any other credentials. And the only reason she sat for that one is because her very first job was a cardiologist, and that's who she'd worked for like 15 years. She loved it, and she was really good at it. And everybody was like, oh, the CCC at the time, it was very scary. But she had it practically memorized. But that's what she loved. Now, me, I want to see everything all the time. That's why risk adjustment was so exciting. You never got bored, right? You could have a healthy guy 1 minute, and then the next minute you've got somebody with a terminal cancer, with
Mhm.
all of this new technology and stuff. And I felt like I was always learning. But talk about cheat sheets that Laureen said. Even with that, at that time, it was just the chronic conditions, because not everything, it's not like the all capture they do a lot now. But I had index cards posted, in different
Mhm.
places. And so like all of my, what would have been now I codes, all the different types of arrhythmias I had on one card, rheumatoid arthritis, as well as all the different types of arthritis and anything that risk, I had them on little cards, and then I had different colors so that I could just look up and know that if I see red, that's cardiology, and then that would make me faster. And I got really, really fast. But again, to me, it's not repetition. You have to, after you've been in it a little while, find out what your niche is. And
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what you do. Look, think about what Laureen was saying, what she was doing with that analytical work and stuff. That made her better at education, because
Mhm.
not only did you have to find, they said, okay, is this a problem? Look at this. Now you have to explain why it's a better way to code this, or pick these, this verbiage that needs to be used and stuff like that. So you're educating, and sometimes that's your niche too. Anyway, that's fun stuff.
Yep.
Oh, and I wanted to shout out
So
for, it
just
looks
to
like
take a little.
Darren.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going
Say
to
that
say
again.
Darren. Was it Darren I saw that said he passed? We
Yeah,
did.
he said, I can't stay, but I wanted to let you know that because of your advice on not overthinking the exam, I am now a certified professional coder. Thank you so much for that and the BAT technique. Well, thank you for letting us know that, Darren. But congratulations, that's very exciting.
Yeah, that's great.
Someone was asking about in Facebook, Whitney, OBS charts. Is there an average amount that someone should be expected to do? I'm not up on that. I'm sure if you did a little Google searching, you probably could find averages or what people expect. I know I've seen that asked before, but I'm not
What were
sure
the
I can.
charts? Which one did you say?
OB.
OB. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be a good quota for that?
You know what, I can find out, because check back or go to the CCO club, Whitney, and ask that, because we just got another SME, and her name is
Subject matter expert.
yeah, and she did OB. She's doing interventional radiology right now, but she started out in OB in an OB office. So we'll ask her. And she was one of the guest speakers when I went up to Dallas Central and spoke a couple weeks ago. Really, really good. And her name is Kimberly. I can't say her middle name. Jovalette, she's got a hyphenated last name, Kimberly, like Jovalette Williams or something. But she would be a good person to answer that, because that was her specialty, and would give you a good idea of what it was like.
And then
That
we
and
have
cardiology.
Yasira saying they're from Puerto Rico and asking if they're certified from the AAPC, can they work remote from Puerto Rico with a company from the US? It really depends on each company. Each company has their own rules, and with HIPAA, they have to be careful. So I would try and identify a company first and see what their policies are. But I think you could. I'm just not sure that you would get paid US wages. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that is true.
But there's a lot of people that live overseas and do
Mhm.
coding. There's controversy. Some people that are US based coders resent that because they feel like the work that they could have had is being farmed overseas. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we are becoming a true
Mhm.
global economy. And
Yeah.
what ends up happening is when things are outsourced, then the US based coders tend to be used more as in a position of oversight, similar to the CAC coding I was just talking about. That happens to be a computer. It's not overseas, but it is something that is altering the way that we were doing our work. And at first there's a resistance. We felt that way when encoders came. We always had paper manuals. Well, then when the electronic ones came, the coders of the day were worried that they were going to be replaced by these encoders. Human coders can't be replaced, but their position changes. They kind of get elevated to more of a supervisory role, if you will. So that computer assisted coding had to be reviewed, had to be audited. It's the same when overseas coders are used. That's what tends to happen, with that. But at any rate, you can become certified. That's why they do have testing sites overseas. And I'm pretty sure they have them in Puerto Rico too.
About 3 years ago, there was a really hot job that was going through all the networks and stuff in Puerto Rico. So they were wanting somebody to come over and live in Puerto Rico and code. So there's some coding jobs over there too. But Puerto Rico, I think you'd have a better chance than if you lived someplace else, because you're more associated with the U.S. Military bases. There's some military wives that are coders, and that takes on a nuance. We have an intern, a new intern that's going to be coming on board soon. She's from the Bahamas, and we don't take international interns, first of all, because we can't call them. But and I kept thinking, wait a minute, is Bahamas a part of the U.S.? Because I was thinking, no, but that was Puerto Rico. And of course my children said no, they were colonized by Britain. So I asked her, I said, are you a British citizen, or are you what? And she goes, I'm a Bahaman citizen, Bahama. And I was like, oh, okay, well. But even Canada, they use a different code set than we do, but still it is another country. And so it would be security that would go over. Actually, there's a lot of people that come to the big conferences from the Bahamas, and so that's kind of cool that they do that. And they use the same code set that we do. They use ICD-10-CM. That would make a difference. It's exciting.
I wanted to go back to talking about a day in the life. Besides doing production coding, you might find that you're going to have to do physician education, or you might have to do auditing of other coders and present those results to them. So that's another aspect that you may do, maybe not as a beginning coder, but as you get more seasoned, and especially if you're involved in doing E&M coding and training the physicians on doing that more accurately. So that's something to consider. There's lots of ways to organize yourself. I know when I did my first audit, it was for a psychiatric hospital in New Jersey, and I think we had 10 physicians. And what I did is I did a sampling of their charts. I got 25 charts. They had someone on their side that pulled the charts for me and made copies, and I did them at my office, and then I went there to present the findings. And I basically use an audit tool similar to what a Medicare auditor would use, and I did each chart that way, and then I put it in a spreadsheet to compare what they coded, what I felt it should be coded, and kind of try to convert it to RVU dollar amounts to show, because whenever you convert things to money, that makes people understand more versus saying, oh, well, you coded 3 over and 2 under. And they're like, okay, it all works out in the wash. Like, no, because what you overcoded, you're at risk of having to pay back if you were audited officially. And if you undercoded, that's money you're leaving on the table. So that's another aspect. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed presenting the results. I gave little envelopes to each of the physicians and let them know on my chart if they were Dr. A, B, C, D, or whatever. And because we didn't want to embarrass them and say, well, Dr. Smith, here's a sample of your note, and you keep missing this consistently. So instead I would say, well, what I noticed with Dr. A is, and I would say it, but everyone ended up knowing who the doctor was by the end of the presentation, because if I was talking about Dr. A, they would argue with me, but they're like, oh, you're Dr. A, but it was a really good way to teach them on how to improve. So that might be more of someone who's doing auditing, but you might find you have to do a little bit of physician education. So something I learned long ago when I used to be an occupational therapist and I had to do in-services to doctors. Just realize they're human like you. They put their pants on one leg at a time. Um, you know, don't be afraid, and be as confident as you can be, and they will respect you more and they will listen to what you're saying. And if you can convert it to money, that they see how much money they're leaving on the table or how much money they're at risk of paying back, that really helps people to get it. So.
Soft skills. I think we've probably talked about that for a while. There's always a need for improvement on soft skills. And sometimes if, when you're in an interview, especially if there's more than one person, it's always nerve-wracking to go into an interview, but your soft skills may end up getting you the job. Not that confidence of being cocky, but that confidence that says, okay, I think that they can talk to Dr. A and explain to them why they can't use this modifier or why that code isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be a little mouse and intimidated when the doctor confronts them. That is
View yourself like an accountant. Most accountants talk to you confidently and say, well, this is what I found. I looked at the numbers and da-da-da-da, and they present it to you without a lot of emotionality. They just tell you and tell you this is what you need to do. And if you view yourself as that level of professional when you're talking to them, that will come across and they'll respect what you're saying versus, in your mind thinking, well, I'm just this lowly coder or whatever. No, what coders do and what billers do, we're affecting the money of a practice. So, and risk of audits and, jail time if things are done wrong. So it's pretty important. It's probably more important than an accountant. So, keep that in mind.
That leads into another question. Morgan asked, is there a typical dress code, business casual or more professional? I know it most likely varies with each workplace, but from your experience, what would you say is the most common? And then Christopher Green said, do you wear scrubs? And you're right, Morgan, where you work makes a difference. Now, I can tell you that if you work in a facility, one of the things that you absolutely will have is a name badge. And nowadays, your name badge gets you into rooms. So, they don't do keys anymore. They may not even have the punch code, but it literally is like getting into the hotel rooms with a little key card. So most people in, say, a facility, of course, you're going to have business casual. You're not going to wear jeans, but you aren't required to wear dresses. I do know that a friend of mine, where she works, she's required, and this is a special, a different practice, but the owner wanted her to do that. She wears dresses and she has to wear stockings. If that's what the owner wants, that's fine. And she likes to do it, but you probably, dress appropriately, professionally, and make sure your clothes are ironed, things like that.
I think business casual is the most common.
Yeah.
If you're in a big outfit and everyone's in cubicles, they still dress fairly nice, slacks and a blouse or, that kind of thing. If you have your sights though on management or, being a supervisor or something like that, you need to dress the part. Maybe you might want to step it up a little bit and wear jackets or things like that, and project, what you want. I do know of some doctor offices where the coders will wear scrubs just to kind of blend in with everybody else. So, it'll vary, but I think most is business casual, I would say.
Yeah, we wore there for a while with the home health. We wore scrubs, and nowadays,
and if you're remote, you wear a blouse. Just in case you have a video conference.
Yeah, you look good from this part up.
Like right now, you have no idea what Alicia and I are wearing below our desk. No.
Those pink fuzzy slippers with the bear claws or something. But scrubs. My word! When my husband was doing some side work at a hospital, he was supervising the cleaning of floors and stuff like that while he was going to college, and he kept the scrubs. He had to wear a certain color of scrubs, and he slept in those for years till they literally fell apart. So, yeah. But
a
Lauren's
question.
right. You step
sorry,
it
go
up
ahead.
and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Jennifer says,
dress
I
for
normally
success.
wear a pair of slacks and a nice blouse. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see.
Okay, so Facebook, Whitney's asking, any tips for time management if you code multiple specialties? For me, I would batch my work. If you can if there's a way to identify, like, okay, these are all the chest x-rays and these are all the MRIs and these are, like if you could batch it, then you'll go quicker because you'll be in that mode. Or you might batch it by physician if you're dealing with handwritten notes or a style of notes, because then you start to know where to look for the key information for that particular physician. That's how I would do it.
Cynthia made a good point too. She goes, just a note that I've worked remote for many years in the medical transcription field and now moving to coding, which I know a lot of them, we have a lot of students that have done that. When I dress business casual at home, it definitely lifted my professional attitude. That is true. It is so true.
I agree.
Remember, I was young, but I remember, if you guys are familiar with Mary Kay Makeup, the lady who founded that, Mary Kay Ash, wrote a book, and something that resonated with me as a young woman that as into adulthood, and she said, even if you're going to make your calls, or however you do that now, and talk to people or your clients and stuff and try to sell them lipstick, she said, but if you put on your face and dress nice, it comes across in your voice. And it's true. If that's what it takes for you to get up in the morning and sit at your desk at home and start your production work or whatever, is for you to get up and get dressed and not sit there in your fuzzy slippers and your pajamas. It probably would change your attitude, and I'm a big believer in that.
And if you have your family at home and they see like oh, mommy's going to work, and you go into your office and you close the door, it does help versus if you're sitting there in your robe.
Right.
So, but it is tempting, I have to say.
Morgan says, thank you. Going into a coding program at my local community college and trying to learn as much as I can about the field before I get started. You know what? Talking about clothes, Morgan, dress as nice and professionally as you can if you're going to go to a brick and mortar school. It is really important that you start that professionalism from that point, because your colleagues or the fellow students, but your peers, the people that are educating you, they will look at you with high regard. They'll talk about you, and your name will get out there. So that even gets into, go through your Facebook, do your professional stuff. People look at that. That's another. We did a video on that a long time ago. We should go to that next topic. Let's talk about how the
the emotional. Okay.
Yeah, the question that had come in, and it was a person that said that she's having to go through, not a social worker, but for whatever position that she has, it's that's right. I see it on the other. Oh, there it is. She is coding a lot of charts with foster care and things, and she said some of that stuff was really, really hard to read, and it was getting to her emotionally. She said, how do you deal with that? So of course, I did home health with hospice, can be a part of that and everything, but with risk adjustment, my word, sometimes that would get really, really bad. You could see the person going downhill, and you're rooting for them. You're waiting for the next. You're seeing the test come through, and the diagnosis is changing from, asthma going into COPD, going into emphysema. Now the person, keeps having pneumonia and things like that. When they succumb, the chart just ends. So sometimes you don't know what happened either. It's not in there. That's another thing we should do sometime, a webinar on coding for death. you know, what happens when a person passes, and how that is coded, and how that is done through the
Close
process
out
of
the chart.
feasibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, closing out a chart. That's a
I think that's why you like risk adjustment so much, because you like reading the
oh, I
story.
do.
And with risk adjustment, you normally are at least getting like 6 months worth of visits, and you can see the story unfold, versus just doing visit-based or ER coding where you don't know. But I think you have to kind of divorce yourself, if you will, from the information. And like when you're reading a textbook and they give you a case, like a cancer case or whatever, and you start reading it, you probably don't get that emotional, versus when you're looking at a chart and you see a name and a date and you know they just talked to them yesterday. So it might just be some sort of mind game you have to play with yourself, not to be unfeeling or uncaring, but and I'm sure the nurses that are taking care of those patients and the doctors, that you have to learn to protect yourself. It doesn't mean you can't be empathetic, but you don't want to take it home with you, so to speak, or you know, let it weigh you down. You have to be balanced and healthy about it. You might want to talk about it to other coders, or if you're going to a chapter meeting, you know, just talk about it. That normally just talking it out, obviously you're not going to say patients' names or whatever, but just, you know, just saying you're having trouble dealing with the sadness of, you know, coding these cancer cases. I wouldn't even get any more specific than that, just in case, because sometimes you could say, oh, it was a young kid, and if you're in a small community, people might be able to figure out who it is. So, you know, just in generality, say that you're, you know, you're having trouble dealing with it, and just talking it out normally
some
helps.
emotionally charged, and you know, encounters have come through. Christopher Green says, I used to file student loan claims for disabled and dead people. I'm used to the bad news. That I never thought about that, but that, and I think wrapping that up with staying healthy yourself. You know, what do you need to do? Maybe you need to go do yoga. Maybe you need to learn how to meditate. Maybe you need to make sure you're eating healthy and you're not eating Twinkies while you're doing, you know, charts, because that's going to mess with your blood sugar, you know, and making that leads into another thing. Sometimes some of us get into what we're doing and we won't get up and go eat if you're working from home. You know, or you won't remember to drink. You know, have a drink there with you, and you know, you will find that you can handle those type of encounters and charts more when you're in a good place in your life and healthy. I mean, if you're going through menopause, expect a boo-hoo over some charts. You know, you could be sitting there looking at and saying, this person's name is Green. You know, Mr. Green, my favorite color is green. You know, it's just, you know, so again, just keep yourself healthy. Make sure that, you know, if you need to take supplements, and if you need to get up, and sometimes if you have an emotionally charged encounter, get up and walk away. Whether you're working in a, you know, a doctor's office or something, go get a drink of water. My husband, his undergrad work is psychology, and he had a professor tell him one time, if you want to change your emotion, go drink a glass of orange juice. He said,
by the way, I'm not
fix it.
drinking a beer, it's a kombucha. I
Or
just
you can just
realized
get
I just realized as I was taking a sip, I said, gee, that looks like a beer bottle. I got to explain this. Versus my
I'm
CCO
drinking watermelon juice, and Laureen is vinegar. she's vinegar.
And that's another thing. You guys can come join us on CCO in our discussion boards. We have a free one, or if you're a club member, and just say, I'm having a bad day and this is what's going on. And, you know, just knowing that you can go where like-minded people are.
And we tend to be very funny and happy people. So that I had a friend that I write to, and I had noticed she has chronic pain, and she was really, really down. You know, she started saying things like, she goes, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. And so I was sending her out these cute cards, and I said, you know what you need to do? You need to go get on YouTube and go look up those, like Eddie Murphy and Robin Williams, or who are the old funny, you know, the ones from the 80s that were, because she's my age, and I was like, go look at those video clips, or watch a funny movie. Just get away. Laughter will help you change your countenance.
Yeah.
And it's a fact that if you're in pain and you laugh, I don't know if it's the endorphins or that just that you bring more oxygen into your body, but it's supposed to help with pain. And so that's what you need to do. You need to take some time, go get a book that's very funny. But then again, like Lauren said, I like to read. Tell yourself
So
you've got 15 minutes to go look at a YouTube funny, and then you have to go back to work, because some people can't go back to work. They get sidetracked.
and it, out in the audience, type in the comments in Facebook or YouTube, how do you guys cope? Do you have problems with it, or is it not a challenge for you? And if you have any other questions, let's see, Stacy, I code for a palliative care doctor, and sometimes the charts are really sad. I also code for 4 orthopedic doctors, an ENT, and a couple of psychiatrists. That might help too, having a variety. I mean, if you are just coding cancer cases all day long, that could probably be really tough. Maybe that's not the specialty for you if you're sensitive, and you might want to do something a little more where you have better chances of, better stories.
Yeah, you go to pediatrics for a while and code them pulling peas out of kids' nose and beans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That'll give you a laugh. Some of the things that happen in there.
So just wanted to let you guys know, right now we're having a flash sale, 25% off courses and blitzes. If you go to cco.us, you can just click on the banner and it'll take you to the sales page. Make sure if you're going to purchase a course that you go to the sale page, because those are where the links are to get the lower prices. And also, if you're not, you haven't been on the website in a while. Oh, yeah.
I'm just, keep going. Don't ignore me.
If you come here and you go to freebies, we have 2 kind of menu bars. I call the green one and then the white one. But if you go to the one in the middle and click on freebies, there's a lot of things here that you might not be aware of are available to you. One is our newsletter. Then we have a monthly Q&A webinar similar to this, but we do prepared questions and they're a little more detailed coding content. We've got lots of practice exams, so if there's a particular one that you're getting ready to take, or you're not sure if you need a full course, you can take a practice exam and see how you score. If it's really, really low, then you probably need a full course. If you're close to a passing score, then maybe you just need a review. So those are helpful that way.
We've got a CIC practice exam, an inpatient practice exam, a free one in the works. It's done, it's just being vetted. So hopefully that'll be out and added to maybe, well, I don't know, by the next time we come together, and this, that would be next Wednesday. It might not be done yet, but so look for that. Come back and check for the new stuff that's coming out.
And then we've got things like modifier grid, one talking about, understanding contrast when as it applies to radiology coding, one for cardiac caths, wound care. If there's a scenario that you're coding and you know it lends itself to some sort of visual aid, let us know and we can work on that. These are the kind of projects that our interns do, and it's kind of fun for them. It makes them learn whatever that particular topic is really well. And by the way, if you're interested in being an intern, you can go to our site and apply, to be an intern as well. Our interns don't do like clerical kind of stuff per se. They do stuff where they're touching coding. They're helping write multiple choice review questions for CEU quizzes, and so they're putting their new coding skills to use. So and I think we have room for 1 or 2 more.
Yeah. The other thing that made me think when Laureen said that, if you have a scenario that you think's really, really unique, and you get that to us, whether it's in your office or you come across it, maybe, however it's got to be redacted if it's from your office and stuff. But think of it as paying forward, because, that's one of the biggest struggles with education in this field is giving people real live encounters that actually happen. That's not just made up in somebody's head to regurgitate a guideline. We want to see practical application scenarios that maybe are unique and uncommon, where maybe there's not a coding clinic on that yet, or so again, when you send that to us and we're able to do education on that, you're paying forward to the next group of coders that are starting out where you were before, and that are working, that are now your peers. So that's a good thing. Help us help you.
Once you get your certification, or if you're already certified, normally getting CEUs is the next step of what you're going to do for your career, to maintain those hard-earned credentials. So that's what our CCO club evolved into, in helping you earn that continuing education. So we encourage, if you aren't already a club member, if you are, let us know in the chat. But this page here, if you go to cco.us/club, go learn about it. It's a very low monthly cost, and it's where you can come kibitz with us, if you will, ask questions that are maybe affecting you on the job, or if you're a student, career path decisions. That's what we're there for. And we work really hard at trying to answer the questions timely. I'm not as good as Alicia is and the other ones, but I try and jump in where I can. Hey, look, that was back when we were redheads, or I was a redhead.
I was thinking at the end, I'm going to tell everybody, aren't we enjoying Laureen's new hair color? It's so much fun.
Blonde. But check it out. We made a little video where we go over all the features of the club. We also have, let me see, go down here. We got lots of stuff here to tell you all about it. I was looking for the pricing.
Doing that. That is one of the things, if you've been with us for a while, you've seen our hairstyles change and stuff like that.
There we go. So we've got the basic club level, which is $22.99 every month, or the one with the Find a Code, the professional level of Find a Code, which is our preferred encoder, and that is $79.50. And the reason why you might want to go that route is that we also bundle some CCO tips and things within that version of Find a Code.
I was just using Find a Code to answer some questions today in the MTA course that we have in the club. So I find it a very good encoder for education, for educational purposes.
And if you've taken a course with us, you can join the club as what's called CCO Prime. And what that does, it allows you to take any subsequent courses. I think you have to open up a help desk ticket, and they'll let you know what the price is based on the course that you got. But that will allow you, once you're in at that Prime level, you can finish that second course, and when you're done, request to take a third course. When you're done, request to take a fourth course, for no additional money. You're just paying your monthly club dues, and you're allowed to do that. So if you're thinking of taking a second course with us or a third course, consider that Prime level. And I think we currently are having them open up a help desk to find out more about that, right? Okay.
Yes, one of the interns that is just joining us, we're onboarding her now. I think she's taken 4 or 5 courses with us. It's a lot of fun.
So here it is here. If you're a returning student in one of the above courses, please open a help desk ticket so we can verify eligibility and email you a link, the details on to become a Prime Club member. So that's definitely a good deal. All right, what else can we talk about? How much time do we have left?
We're about wrapping it up.
Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions?
I was just looking to see.
The club is great.
Crystal says good information. So yeah, that, you know what, we started doing this. What to say, we're on 11 now of doing these, and it's just a more casual way for us to interact with you, topics that are a little more lighthearted for us to give you a better view of the website and some of the things that we offer, but so that we can kind of let our hair down and have fun with you for an hour versus having a regimented webinar where we're really focused on, you know, something that we got to give you a lot of information and content on. So we really appreciate the questions that you ask, and
Yes.
and we don't feel bad about kind of only by picking one thing to talk about, it spurs off all this other conversation and makes it feel a little more warm and fuzzy, which we enjoy that. You know, we like getting to kind of know you guys better and getting to hear about your experience as well.
Talking
I
to
wanted
our tribe
our
and
tribe,
our bells.
that's right. So since Laureen has her pretty blonde hair, I was going to turn around and let you see the back. Can you see the back of my hair?
Oh yeah.
And my granddaughter came in, Kendall came in today, and I said, "What do you think of Granny's hair?" And she said, "It looks like a nest." And I thought, oh, that wouldn't have been a good thing, but she was just all excited.
Granny.
It's hot.
I don't want to be
so
called Granny.
Oh, I like being called Granny. And you know what? My husband is Grumpy Grandpa.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but it's what is it? It's humorous for him to say that because he's not a grumpy grandpa, but they like saying, "Grumpy Grandpa, can I have a popsicle?" He'll say, "Sure."
I'm sure my 4-year-old Sophia would love your hair. She'd
Oh,
say,
yes.
I like her hair, Daddy.
Yeah.
I can't believe she's 4 already. Wow.
Well, she'll be 5 in a couple weeks, you know.
Last time I
Well,
saw
we'll
her,
have to have
she
a
was an itty
Wednesday
bitty
show where we
baby.
bring our kids in.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll parade them.
we have an actor in our family. I don't know about yours, so he might take over.
I don't think people would mind.
No.
So I just wanted to end with letting people know, if you come to cco.us and click on contact, we've got all these forms based on what you need to reach us about. This is our help desk one. If you've recently passed, let us know. Even if you're not a student of ours, if there's anything that we've ever done to help you, whether it's a YouTube video or whatever, tell us that you passed. We like to give a shout out at our monthly webinar that we do, our public webinar. If you've used our BAT system, our bubble highlight annotation technique system, come here and tell us your story. We have a review.
Especially
If you
now
want
that
to.
it's an anniversary. We just talked about that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And number 5, topic request. That's if you want us to research a coding question or topic. I think someone was saying, yeah, preventative care would be a good topic. So
Yeah.
if you come here and you click on that, you know, type out your question, and if you have like a scenario that you want us to help you with, even if it's a on the job kind of thing, as long as it's redacted, we can help with that. Case studies, if you actually have a full report that you want us to code with you, and what I mean by with you, we'd like it if you tell us what you think it should be coded, and then we come along and help you say, yep, you're on the right track, but you might want to look at this other code that's a little more specific or that kind of thing. Because we're teachers, we don't want to do the work for you, we want to teach you how to do it. We have door prizes that we give like to chapters and things like that. So if you would like us to donate a prize, like sometimes a blitz review or something like that, you can request that there. Job candidates, we have an application. This is the intern one. If anyone was interested in being an intern, that's number 10. If you want to write a blog article for CCO, that's number 11. You get the idea. I'm not going to read these to you, but a lot of different ways to interact with us. So please do. We love to hear from everyone, especially the
and
questions.
we also do guest speaking. So if you need, if it's within drive time. So I know I'm going to go, I think on the 14th or the 16th, whatever is a Saturday next month, the 16th to by Dallas again to the Richardson, Texas, I think, and they're having a symposium. So I get to speak up there and talk about the difference between HHS risk adjustment and CMS risk adjustment. And they are going to dissect a fetal not a fetal, a pig heart or something. Never done that at a chapter, but they're going to have a good symposium.
And Jesus is reminding us that our 2020 ICD-10 CM update webinar is this Thursday,
Tomorrow.
July 20. Oh, yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
At 11 a.m. And this year we're presenting the 2020 ICD-10 CM updates webinar privately for CCO Club members only. So we're not going to be broadcasting it on YouTube or Facebook. So if you want to be on that, you need to be a club member.
86 slides. Woohoo!
86,
We're going to have
wow.
fun, guys.
And he said, during this webinar, we'll be discussing all the changes to ICD-10 for 2020 in our usual fun fashion, courtesy of Alicia. And if you're a current club member, you can click here to visit the event in Podia. What's the click here?
It might be worth it just to join the club for the 1 month, just to be able to have that out of the way, the updates.
Okay, so he's given us a link. Can we share that in Facebook though?
No, I think it's just the club one he wants us still to go to. But
Okay.
club members get the second one.
Yeah, so look for an announcement in the club on how to get access to that, but that's tomorrow at 11. And of course it will be recorded for the club members as well that can't attend live.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, guys.
All right, let's see, did we forget anything else?
I think that's it. We're right on the
I don't really
hour. We are so good at this, guys. Man. There was a day when we weren't as structured as this, and I remember that afterwards, Boyd and Laureen would be talking to each other online, and Boyd would say, "Nope, she's still talking," and I would forget that Boyd's an hour ahead of me, and he wanted to go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, well, these are nice on Wednesday because they're just an hour and it's much lighter and, but thanks for being with us. I think we looked at all of the responses in Facebook and YouTube. And, like usual, if you're happy with us, please share. Social media is really a big way of how we've grown. That word of mouth is so critical. And even if you're not typing something, just even those likes and subscribes tell the search engines that the content that we're providing is valuable, and they will help suggest us to people looking for things like medical terminology and billing training. So we appreciate any little bit that you can do.
So B. Patel said, what do I have to do if I'm interested in writing a topic? And again, it's just on that list that she's showing you on the screen, and just submit it. So submit it and we'll put it through for review.
And if all else fails, you're not sure where to go to the help desk and say, I'd like to do X, and they'll direct you and give you links and all that kind of stuff.
Bye, guys.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Boyd. Thanks, Jesus.
Betcha. Good night, guys.
And thanks,
See you
Alicia.
tomorrow.